Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Porter, and the title of this video is Don't Calm Down! Exclamation point. Now, of course, you can imagine that I've got a point to make here and that I obviously shouldn't have a problem with calming down. So if you want to calm down, we'll do a couple of techniques and then I'll get back to what I'm talking about. So let's start with that. If you do want to calm down, there are many techniques. The things that I recommend are mostly breath-centered and body-centered. So let's just start there. Right now I'm going to describe, I guess, two exercises. There are just so many exercises that a person can do to calm themselves down that I want to give you a couple. And I'll describe them and maybe I'll walk you through them a little bit, but I don't want to make this a full meditation video or anything like that. Meditation and relaxation exercises based on different definitions kind of overlap. A lot of them are the same things, but there is a lot of variety. So let's start with a simple breath exercise, okay? I'm going to call it breath counting. Now this is breath counting in which you count 10 breaths in a row and then start over again at number 1. What's neat about this exercise is that when you are in your normal operating mode, which promotes things like anxiety and anger and getting all edgy and getting confused and that kind of thing, is that you have something called the default mode network, which just gets you thinking all the time of the future. It's very creative and that kind of thing, but it is that same voice that gets you puzzled and scared and worried and self-criticizing and that sort of thing. So we don't really want to fight these voices. A lot of people say, when you meditate, clear your mind. Well, go ahead and try that for a few months and see how difficult that is and how much more that critical voice starts to get at you for not being good at it. And that's because if you're ever going to have a more clear mind, it probably takes years and years of practice. But it's not about avoiding anything, avoiding thoughts, avoiding feelings or anything. It's more like trying to direct your attention to something. Now, it's not necessarily about direct, unwavering focus on a particular object, because that's asking a lot of the human mind. Actually, that's probably unhealthy for the human mind. It has to be able to scan here and there. So, in fact, if you want to try it along with me, I'll give you an example of what it's like. But rule number 1, expect to be distracted by your thoughts or something else. Rule number 2, do not make a big deal out of it. Do not criticize yourself for getting distracted. Rule number 3, just when you realize you've been distracted, say to yourself, what have I been distracted for? Oh yeah, I was counting my breath. Oh, let me gently go back to that. Plain and simple. I'll give you like 2 rounds of it with me breathing and saying the numbers out loud. But what would really happen is after a few minutes, I'd get distracted. In real life, you'll set yourself a timer. I say 10 minutes, but if that seems like too much, set yourself a 3-minute timer, a 5-minute timer, a 7-minute timer, or a 10-minute timer. If you think you need more, go for it. Set yourself a 15-minute timer. Over time, you might have an hour-long meditation tradition that you do on a daily basis that over time changes the very way you work. So here it is. Close your eyes. Just get in a position that's comfortable, where you don't feel like you're restricting your breathing too much. Now, you can continue with your eyes closed, or you may watch me. I'll try to make my breathing a little bit obvious for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, instead of taking you through 2 counts of 10, I think you've got the idea. You just start over at 1 there. And the idea is that we have actually a difficult time not going past 10, because when we were young, we were taught to count to 100. We were so proud of that we count very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you can count to 100 in a few seconds. And so this is actually a discipline where you will sometimes catch yourself going 27. Oh, I'm distracted. I must have been thinking about something else. And at that point, you can start over where you think you were or where you think you should be, like at 7, or you can just start over again from 1 or whatever. A couple of things about this is, I can't remember the other caveats, but I give you a few at the beginning. Okay, so the next one is body scanning, and I'm just going to describe that one very quickly. Body scanning is first you go into your breath. Oh yes, when you do these breathing exercises, generally, unless you're instructed to, I would say you don't have to worry about changing your breath and making any special kind of breath, like breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth or anything like that, or sitting in a particular posture or something like that. But if you feel like it, if you decide when you notice your breath that you're going to change it, that's fine. You can try to change it and make it more this or more that. I tend to breathe in more quickly than I breathe out. Okay. Next, the same goes for body scanning. First, you go into the breath and you just notice it. You just pay attention to it. You don't have to change it. You can change it if you want to. Sometimes you notice that when you're looking at your breath, it sort of seems to spontaneously change on its own, which is an interesting process. Because here in both of these exercises, you're building a relationship between your body and these other processes, and your mind, basically, or your autonomic nervous system and your more conscious nervous systems, your older brains and your newer brain, the neocortex. So you're building a relationship is really what you're doing, not trying to overpower anything. So really, body awareness is something that people ought to do, I think, on a regular basis, because most of us have been taught to leave our body and not pay attention to it. I call it self-abandonment, as opposed to self-love. Paying attention to yourself is the same as when you pay attention to a child or a loved one, another loved one. It's a form of love when you pay attention. So pay attention to your feet, and then you can pay attention to your lower legs, the calves and the shins. Just pay attention to them. See if you can notice anything. That's it. Then you go up to your thighs, and you pay attention to them for a while. Then you go to the most complex space that I think we have in our society today, your midsection, your groin, your belt line down to the bottom of your groin. This is associated with very gross things like waste, like defecating and urinating, pissing and pooping. I hope that's okay. And it has to do with sex, which can be very pleasurable or very shameful. This is the area we hide. This is a major hinge in the body that hinges your legs to your back. This is where the spinal column begins, and it's where your digestive system begins. And your digestive system, that tube does not stop until it gets to your sinuses, which is about this close to your brain. So think about this as the very beginning of something not small and something to hide, but something to pay attention to. And then you've got your tummy, which has the digestive organs and also goes in and out as you breathe because the diaphragm pushes down on it. Pay attention to your tummy and lower back and everything in between. And then you go and pay attention to your chest and upper back and everything in between. Then you pay attention to your shoulders, maybe your shoulder blades and your rounded shoulders here. And then you can either go to your arms or your neck. In this situation, we'll go to your neck because just what's going around a lot here is where a lot of people report tension. So pay attention to your outer neck and your inner throat, what's going on there. Then you can pay attention to your upper arms. Then you can pay attention to your lower arms. I do them both at the same time. I don't go left and right. I do left and right at the same time. Then your hands and fingers. Notice them. Notice the sensation of paying attention to them, things like that. Then you can go up to your head, and you can divide up your head into a bunch of different pieces, like your jaw is a big one. Your jaw has I think it's called the masseter and the temporal muscle. All right, so you can break up your head. That's the general idea. You do this slowly, a lot more slowly than I just described. But what I wanted to say about not calming down is that your anger and your emotions are your servant. So when you're feeling them is not going to hurt you, not especially after you've built a long-term relationship with them, where you can honor them and they can pay attention to you. But that brings up the question, who are you? Who are you? Well, you are the you that you think you are when you're talking about, I don't know why the heck I'm behaving this way. And then there's other parts of you that are behaving that way for particular reasons, but they don't follow the logic of conscious reasoning. They follow a different kind of logic. They follow a danger logic, a questing logic, a bonding logic. Very different from, I should be paying attention to my work right now. They just do what they do. So you can think of them as a different part of you. So you are all these things, but the I that we think we are is kind of the neocortex, and the one that is supposed to make conscious decisions based on evidence and that sort of thing. But nobody operates that way 100%. That's just a part of us. So you've got to get used to the idea that you are paying attention to you. And then you're building relationships among different parts of you. I forgot to mention freestyle breathing. And freestyle breathing is a way of not blocking your emotions and maybe feeling them more intensely, which is something you got to decide if you want to do. That's a moment-to-moment thing. But sometimes when you're really worked up, it's like you're jogging. Your body's ramped up like you're in the middle of a long run or a sprint. And so you might try to force control of your breathing by, I'm going to breathe real slowly and this is going to relax me. And yes, slow abdominal breathing does send signals to relax the body. That actually does work. However, a long time ago when I was at a very stressful job, I found that what was helpful for me in breathing a certain way this day was different the other day. And so I found that you can experiment with trying to figure out what kind of breathing your body kind of wants to do. And it might be very rapid. It might be shallow. It might be very deep. You might want to go, oh, and not think about any other kind of breathing after that. You might want to go, think of the old style Lamaze classes where a woman was given different types of breathing for different parts of the labor process. So if you recognize that you have different kinds of breathing that are appropriate for different times, then you need to be careful with any of this advice I give you, because not only does it have health effects on your mental health, but your mind and body are one. And so it could have effects on your actual body. And you got to be careful. If you have breathing problems, if you have any physical ailments, if you have back problems, any problems, I recommend, since you don't have me to monitor you and be there for you, or a therapist to do it, either to do these things with a therapist and talk to them about it, or tell your doctor, I just feel like sometimes I want to do rapid breathing and it'll help me, or whatever. Talk to your doctor about that. Make sure it's not a problem for your condition. I'm not, an expert on the lungs or anything like that as a physiologist or anything like that, the physiology of the lungs. So this is something that you'll want to ask an MD or an ARNP who's being overseen by an MD. Maybe a DO is fine, but some kind of physician. And then finally, I guess I'll summarize by saying, yeah, it's okay to intentionally calm down. You can use slow abdominal breathing to calm yourself down. That sends a signal to the panic and anxiety and the fight, flight, and freeze parts of you, and the worried and the scared and the lonely parts of you that, listen, we're sitting down and we're breathing slowly, so there must not be any danger around. And after a while, that system can learn to calm down. Again, with some people, that's going to be very difficult. So you might want to use some other strategies. The body awareness not only can help a person calm down, it can help a person feel relaxed, but It can also help a person get accustomed to their body so that they're not hiding from their emotions and they're not hiding their emotions from themselves anymore. So that's why I say don't calm down. Another reason to understand don't calm down is when you do try to do a relaxation exercise and it's not working for you, a lot of times you're going to go into criticizing yourself rather than the appropriateness of the exercise for that time. And actually what's going on is sometimes it's not going to happen. We're not going to calm down. Sometimes it's not time to calm down. Sometimes it is good to have the system up in arms. For example, when you're sprinting, that thing should be going really super fast. Or, for example, when you're feeling in some version of danger and there's actual imminent danger, like you happen to go into the walk across the street and the car didn't stop at the red light and it's coming right at you, those times are appropriate. There are times when you feel upset because something upsetting is happening, and the feeling, as long as you're not turning that feeling into some kind of thoughtless behavior, then it's okay to have that feeling. It's actually important, I guess, to probably let that feeling process through without forcing it to continue. I guess the final part of this summary is that this is a process of functioning better, but it's also a process of paying self-attention and self-love, because most of us at some point we're taught to ignore our bodies and ignore our emotions and pay attention to other things. And we became thinkers, and thinkers that eventually learned to drive ourselves crazy by staying up in our heads too much. And so as opposed to self-abandonment, we're going to do self-attention, self-empathy, and self-love. And over time, we will learn to tolerate the emotions that arise in our body for no apparent reason or for good reason or for whatever. Now, finally, I do recommend that if you're having enough problems or you want more satisfaction in your emotional life, in your relationship life, and in your life up here, do get a good counselor, one who listens, one who treats you like an individual who needs your specific kind of care, and one who's not afraid to tell you their honest clinical opinion and give you guidance. But one who really listens to you and empathizes with you the way you'd want to empathize with yourself, the way you'd want to empathize with others, and the way you'd like others to empathize with you. So yes, above all, you may need a counselor if these things aren't working for you. So this is Jim Porter checking out with the phrase, do calm down, but sometimes don't calm down. And number 3, a YouTube video is not always going to do it for you. Thank you very much.